There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
And question time. Question time. It's time to get your question time. I love these, by the way.
I know. I enjoy these myself.
I enjoy these. We'll see. There's that much left of the childhood.
Okay.
Until we go to the midlife, which we can ask too. But
yes.
Which I'll be interested. But we're just jumping right in here. What were your? This is a great question. What were your favorite childhood games or toys? That's a great question to kick things off.
Yeah, I think as a little kid, I had this doll, and I will use the term doll. It looked like kind of like Godzilla, and it was called a Crusher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like there's pictures of me holding that doll.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it just kind of looked like Godzilla. It was green, and I have this affinity for green. And I don't know if it's from an Incredible Hulk or what, but when I was younger, but I still to this day. But that doll was something that I was such a big fan of when I was little, like 3 years old.
I mean, that is a great pick because that's something very unique. I got to go more generic. I love the Superpowers toys.
Okay.
I play with them all the time. The Batmobile, the Hall of Justice. I mean, that just nothing but just happiness when I think about those old toys. Because I remember the hours spent around my old home playing with them. And also maybe a close second would be Mask. And we've talked about this. You've got me some of the comic books from the old days and the newer ones. And it just makes me want to get those toys again. True story, a long time ago, back when eBay was kind of new, it was early 2000s, I was bidding for a complete collection of Mask toys. Mm-hmm. And I got the bid up to 1,000, and then I was like, what am I doing? And I lost it by over 1,000. I was like, whoo, got off the hook.
Yeah.
And this Sunday, I told my brother, I regret it. I regret not going all in and outbidding him. Because, I mean, yeah, it would have hurt me then, but then I would have had all the Mask toys to look at now.
I'll say this, too. The last toy line before, you start kind of growing out of that to a certain degree, like playing with toys, I think, was G.I. Joe. Like 87, I think G.I. Joe, like when the G.I. Joe, the movie came out, and like Duke was supposed to die, but they didn't kill him because they had such
problem with Optimus Prime.
My God, everybody's childhood trauma. But yeah, G.I. Joe was the last toys I really enjoyed playing
Did you
with.
send that? You sent the text to me. That was great. It was a montage of everything that was traumatizing to a child in the 80s, and Optimus Prime was in there.
Yeah.
Artemis and from Neverending Story dying. Yeah. So many great moments. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Those are your moments. I think we know this one, but did any of your childhood friends remain in your life? What's your oldest friend that's remained in your life? Who is it? I had a childhood friend from Mississippi called Bill Jackson. I still have his number. We still chat maybe twice a year. I'll text him up or whatnot and sometimes call him.
I think the only friend that I have from elementary school that I've even seen recently was a guy named Kenneth Bailey. I actually went to his mom's funeral a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And, So, but not many. Most of them are more high school friends.
All of mine would be high school friends I still keep in touch with. But the grade school, he's the only one. And we're not, I would love to talk to him. He lives in Tennessee, though. But I went to his wedding. That's how we kind of reconnected because his mom gave my mom an invitation. I was like, whoa, he's getting married?
Yeah.
So I went down there, and that's kind of how we struck up our friendship again. Yeah. What did you do for fun when you were a kid?
I think playing with toys, we talked about that. I collected comics when I was younger, or still do, but big into that and played video games.
I was an outdoor bike guy. We had lots of kids in the neighborhood. So you'd play some backyard baseball. You'd go on bike rides. It was a small town. We could bike around half the town.
Yeah.
And Saturdays, I can't tell you. Saturday meant the best day in the world to me. Every Saturday was like, especially during school season. The Saturdays were more special. And just all those times, starting with the cartoons and on.
I can remember when you get older and you start like riding your bike or whatever a little bit further and things like that. I can remember riding out further than I'd ever went and like met kids in different parts.
Yeah, you met the
streets.
kid. Yeah. You find out where they live because
Yeah,
they tell
you
you
would
where they
just
live,
play and do
or sometimes you
whatever.
go to their house.
Yeah, and like I
afterwards.
can remember like thinking, man, it's getting dark. I should ride my bike
Yeah.
home. And my parents were pissed that I
Pissed
was
off.
out. Like they were like, we thought you got abducted, and I'm like, well, I'm just riding my bike.
Our rule was when the street lights come on, you better come home.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes we didn't.
But
make
you
it.
think that like, oh, I can get home, but if you've went further than you're
your
your idea of
We were
rel-
terrible judges of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't relate 10 minutes. What is this really? I don't know how long this
Yeah.
is going to take.
This is actually a three-pronged question here. But what kind of movies, music, and books did you enjoy as a kid? Let's start with movies.
Fantasy, sci-fi, comedy.
Okay. Definitely the Star Wars trilogy and Ferris Bueller's Day Off were the movies I watched the most in my childhood. I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off was right there.
Yeah.
My buddy would call me every once in a while. The neighbor kid would, hey, want to take a day off with Ferris? And we're like, I'll be there. And we saw that one a billion times. But we also watched the Star Wars movies all the time. I mean,
Yep.
we were just big into that.
Yep.
Music?
First tape I ever bought was Van Halen 1984. And I really got into music in 1988 and listened to Guns N' Roses and just appreciated hard rock. right after that.
We were radio. We were Casey Kasem. Who didn't listen to Casey Kasem sometimes? Top 40.
Yeah, sure.
Waiting to see if your favorite song came on. Walkmans came about in the early 90s. Not for us. Walkman was our present, 1990 or whatnot. So my first tape came a few years later because mom and dad had tapes. So we'd play their tapes. But my first one was Weezer the Blue Album, which is still the very first album I play in every new car I get. What book did you enjoy as a kid? Mine are the same I enjoy now. I loved Tolkien as a kid, read Lord of the Rings a million times, still love it today.
I can't really say there were books I've read. It was just comics. I just read a lot of comics.
And of course, when I turned 13 and whatnot, and the Thrawn trilogy came out, of course, I was reading Star Wars too as a kid.
Yep. I found those, I guess, when I was like 16. Like
Yeah.
93,
Well, maybe-
something like that.
How old would I would have been back then? I
You may
can't
have
remember.
been. You're a few
But
years
about
younger than
that
me.
time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember the first one had already come out in paperback, and the second one had come out in hardback. So that's when I got in, because I remember thinking, "Wow, this is great." Because I read the paperback, it's like I need to get the second paperback. Oh, it's in hardback. I'll wait.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember that's where I was. So whatever year that was, I should have looked it up before I did that. But I didn't know the question was going to pop up anyway. Did you ever get seriously injured or sick as a kid?
Yes. I've had asthma my whole life. And in I want to say 89, I had a asthma attack. I was taking a breathing treatment, like an albuterol, and stuff everybody has from COVID now. And I can remember looking at my dad walking in the living room and going blank. And then I woke up in the hospital with my dad hold my hand.
Wow.
Turned blue, no
That
heart
bad?
rate. Yeah, my mom called, my dad called 911. My mom gave me CPR. Ambulance came to my house, all kinds of stuff. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine was, I don't even remember this because of baby. I was tongue-tied when I was born. I wasn't able to suck, so no one can say I sucked as a kid because I could not. My mom, I was the first baby, so she didn't know if she was feeding me right. She couldn't tell back then. I was her firstborn. And then my grandmother went, man, he's lighter, don't you think? He's getting lighter, and because I couldn't eat that much, and I was crying a lot. So they took me to the doctor, and yeah, I hadn't eaten. I was getting starved, and of course everyone felt bad. But back then it was the 70s. I got a spinal tap as a kid. My grandmother tells me the moment she heard she could hear me down the hall screaming when the spinal tap. She said she got up, she ran out of the hospital, and she could not stop crying. My grandfather had to go tell her it's okay. But she just thought, oh my goodness, they're torturing him. It's like Han Solo getting tortured by Darth Vader. But I don't remember any of this. But it was, some tough times. Then they figured it out. Then I was
That's
good again.
levity to add to that. Not that I was that sad, but
Yeah.
Han Solo being tortured is good.
Hit! Ah! That's exactly what it sounded like. I bet. Anyway, where did you attend high school?
West Monroe High School in the city we live in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Of course, when we moved here, my dad hated every high school. We were homeschooled. Did you have any influential teachers or coaches as a kid?
I had one teacher that was there was a few, but one told me, and was a French teacher. She pulled me aside one day and said, "Pick your moment." Because I was a class clown, always had a quick, cutting sarcasm, as one of my coworkers calls it. And she said, "Learn to pick your moment."
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have to go further into college days to answer this one.
Okay.
Because I had a few that history professors that I really liked that made me appreciate that I was, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in college. I just picked history because it's an easy subject for me. I could always make A's and not have to study because I listened to everything. It was like story time. I loved it. But I wasn't serious about it. But then when I was talking to all these other professors about, how important history is, what you can do with it and everything, it made me feel better about my career like that way.
Okay.
I've also had a government teacher who did not think the same way as me, but gave me an A because I could handle myself in a debate better than other people. And he even told me later on, I don't agree with anything you just said. In fact, I think you're wrong. However, you're great at debating and you really tore apart the other class and they need to study more. He said, and I just realized you are actually the best one. Even though I don't agree with that, I was like, wow, that was very fair, which you don't have anymore, I don't think.
That's a good assessment, too. That's where you build on things. Like, give me something tangible. And that gave you something very tangible.
It did. It did.
It's not about, it's about being passionate about what you care about.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So those are some good ones. Another one was, his name was Louis Bivens. He wasn't a doctor. He only has masters, so he could only do the base courses back then. But he never forgot a name. I remember I first met him my very first semester. He was next to me in one of the classes. And I just started talking to him because I talked to everyone. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm a teacher." I went, "Wait. Why are you in this class?
Right.
If you're a professor?" He went, "You can never stop learning." And I was like, "What is your name?" And I took every class from him. I was like, "Wow, here's a guy that really just appreciates history and everything." And we became friends in college, and he never forgot my name going forward. What were your favorite subjects in high school? Well, I gave that one away. History. What about you?
None.
None of the above is what Wesley says. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was the earliest thing? I know what I wanted to be. I wanted to be first baseman for the New York Mets. That was the very first thing I remember I could think of.
I wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Really?
Yeah.
What stand-up comedian influenced you to say, I want to do that?
I think I would probably say Eddie Murphy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Look at you.
Mm-hmm.
What was in style when you were in school? Well, that's kind of easy. But I'll tell you what. I remember everyone was making tie-dye T-shirts because it was so easy to do. Put the tie, twist the shirt, wet the shirt, twist it up, sprinkle dye everywhere, and ooh, look at all the, it was cool for a little while. Everyone wore your own little homemade tie-dye. The tear-up jeans was good, which eventually turned into grunge. Which I
remember when Coca-Cola shirts were huge.
Really?
In the 80s.
Oh,
having
yeah.
Coca-Cola shirts. And I had a ton of them. And I remember
you were cool.
I was trying. And I remember getting my first pair of Girbaud jeans. Which were a pretty big deal.
That's a pretty big deal. I had the acid wash jeans, and I just loved them so much. I rarely wore them.
These were stone washed.
Oh, maybe they were stone. These are white.
Stone washed.
Okay, maybe I had that, but I had
a stone wash tag on the back.
Maybe that's what I can't remember, but it was something like that. But they were white almost. And I was like, wow, with a little speck of blue here and there. I was like, these are the coolest jeans ever. So I rarely wore them because they were the nicest jeans. But then I'm 13. I grew up, and I couldn't wear them. I mean, the kid who. What was it? The Kevin McAllister Home Alone 2. I had these skates. I never skated in them because I loved them so much. But then my feet got too big and I couldn't skate in them anymore.
There's got to be some metaphor for life,
I know there's some metaphor for life in there. But that was the same thing for the jeans.
Yeah.
I didn't get to wear them, and I remember when I couldn't fit them anymore. I was like, oh no.
It was like big.
So me not wearing technically. And the britches. All right, were you ever given any special awards for your studies or school activities?
The best award I ever got for something with school was I had to take summer school my junior year for English because the teacher we had, and she was pretty synonymous at West Monroe for flunking like 2/3 of the class. Like pretty much everybody that took her for English flunked. And she used to call me Mr. Do Nothing. And I totally took that on. But anyway, I went to summer school that year, and the teacher we had, she was, summer school was real laid back. But she was like, write me something. We had to write like a creative something, like a 1 page. And I wrote just the most dumb, ridiculous about getting attacked by a horse and all of this stuff. And I got like an A. And she was like, I love how creative you were with that.
Wow.
And that was like, well, geez, I should have,
I don't think I ever got any accolades like that. I mean, I don't know. I have nothing. I have nothing as it goes for awards or
But you did
special
graduate
notices.
college, so good for you.
I did graduate college.
Yeah.
Did your relationship with your family change in your teenage years? Where is Brandon when I need him? All
My
right.
goodness. No kidding. This game has went so smooth so far. I just got to say, this is not like it was the past 2 times we played.
This one we have talked. No, this one's great. These are some good questions.
Yeah.
This one I feel we've talked about a lot. But
Yes, needless to say, when I turned 18, things drastically took the elevator down with my parents. Yeah, drastically.
said
bad.
Steven Tyler and the opening of Love in an
Yeah,
Elevator.
it was not going down. It was a drastic fall from grace.
It was okay. Mine basically stayed the same. It didn't change anything. It was something weird though. My parents had nicknames for everyone but me, and everyone went by their nickname in the house until they went to college, and then suddenly, mom and dad just stopped calling you by your nickname. And it wasn't something they did purposely. It was just I'm not seeing you every day because you're in college now. And they would just stop saying the name. And so when you graduated, it was weird. You graduated from your nickname. You weren't Stinka, Buddy, Pud, Red. You weren't those people anymore. So
Yeah.
Actually, the only nickname that ever had was Cuckoo. It was yours. That was the only one I ever had. Who were your closest friends in high school? Well, this is it.
Cass, who
Still a friend today.
Yeah, still a friend today. A good friend of mine, Mark, who has a telecommunications company here. Those are probably the top 2 from high school.
Me, Patrick, who I see all the time, talk to. He tries to make an effort, and I appreciate it. And we try to talk. We don't have that much in common anymore, but we try to talk about different things and
Sure.
just to talk. And I appreciate that. I'm very happy for that. And then John, who I don't talk about with as much, but I would love to. He came over here like in December, and he just kind of hung out. I was like, man, we need to do this more often, because I just miss talking to him and laughing about stuff and old days and whatnot. And we get to laughing about things a lot. So, those would have been my 2 closest back in the day. Where did you hang out with your friends, and how did you spend your time together?
Well, for us back in the day, when you were really, really young, you went to Skate Town. Elementary, early junior high. Then you went to the mall. And then when you would start to drive, you would just hang out in different random parking lots in town.
Do you know where a lot of now that you mention that, like where did your mom drop you off and you hang out? Mine was the baseball parks, but not to socialize, was to play baseball.
Okay.
But then you had to, remember, this is back before cell phones. You had to sit, unless you had a quarter to call your mom, tell her to come pick you up. She was going to come pick you up at 5. So if the game ended at 4:30, you got 30 minutes. So you'd wander around and go to the other fields, sit in the bleachers, talk to the other kids.
Yeah.
There's always the little girls hanging out, looking at all the boys playing baseball. You talk to them, and you go, maybe if you had some change, you go buy something at the concession stand. But that's a lot of hanging out in the summer because me and my brothers had, because we were told, okay, well, I'm going to be here, but your brother's going to be there, so you just meet me there at the end of the day, and then Mom would drive off.
Yeah.
And you just leave your kids at the ball field all afternoon because everyone had games.
Right.
And so we would just wander around the ball field a lot. We had maybe $1 to get something, a drink or something.
It's a good way to keep you occupied.
And we got occupied, but we just got to, it's almost like, and we didn't really know everyone. We knew a lot of people, the regulars. But a lot of hanging out. Now that I think about it, like we're going young, before high school, before you had your own keys to the car.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you
where was your hangout spot? It was probably the Saul Adler baseball fields.
Okay.
Now that I think about that, just you saying that spurned it for me, because we didn't all get dropped off at the mall every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every blue moon we drop off if we were going to see all the same movie.
Yeah.
But then they pick us up almost immediately, or your mom was usually shopping.
Right.
And then came back to pick you up.
Sure.
So it wasn't that we got to hang out much there at the mall, which you would think regularly that's where a lot of kids would hang out. But yeah, mine would have been the Sadler Fields. Well, this is going to be a short answer for you. What rebellious things did you do as a teenager?
I found ways to find conflict. Regardless if that was in class, with other kids, I just found a way to disrupt things.
Found a way to disrupt things.
Yeah.
Look at you, Dennis the Menace here.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Rebellious, the thing is, my mom never knew until way later. She always thought that I was the one, and she still probably says it, I'm the only one that never really got that much in trouble. No, I'm the only one that never really got caught, was the thing. And we did the whole, I was just telling someone this the other day, we used to do train hopping.
I know when you talked about that on the podcast, Brandon was so taken with it. And it's a great story.
Yeah, yeah. You had to stick that landing. But that was something a little bit crazy. And, you know, as rebellious goes,
I think the worst thing we ever did as a kid was we set some woods on fire. And we would and
arson to the list. Go for it.
We did that a handful of times, and it never got out of control. And then it did.
And did you get in trouble? Did they know it was you? Did they find out?
I don't believe I was fingered, lack of a better term, in that situation. But I definitely partook in that, and it was quite a show with fire trucks and everything showing up, and cops, and people like freaking out.
Wow, that's incredible. With me,
That's the summer I got into going and just swimming in random places and got a case of what they call the red bugs.
The red bugs.
On my downtown. And it was a situation.
Wow. With me, and I'm trying to look this up to see what I did. I can't remember what it was, but the year that Forrest Gump came out, my mom thought I'd seen it 13 times. I'd never seen it once, because that was our excuse, we said, to go watch other movies.
Right.
The Crow, anyone. I mean, we watched every R-rated movie that we could, but we keep telling her we were going to see Forrest Gump.
94?
That was 94 is what it says here.
Okay.
And then I'm looking up other movies in 94, and I cannot find a single other thing but The Crow. But I know we use that for like everything. Okay. And I all these movies look safe, the ones they're talking about, but I'm looking. I thought like didn't Die Hard 3 come out that year too?
I would say Die Hard 3 was like 96, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe so. But I can't see any other ones that we would see that Mom and Dad would have been against. But I remember The Crow. If that was one, then we probably, because I remember seeing that in theaters. But dang, a lot of baseball movies. Well, definitely wasn't under Friendship.
But needless to say,
yeah.
You did not see Forrest Gump that many times.
No, and she didn't know that till like years later when I told her I'd never seen the movie before. She went, Matt, you watched that movie like 13 times when it came out. And I was like, oh, yeah, about that. Kind of didn't see that. All right, so I can't see the other ones there. So maybe, I don't say it says Crow 1994, but I don't know. Anyway, did you date as a teenager?
Not as much as I would have thought I could pull off, but I was pretty goofy looking. And
so that I didn't.
That hampered me, but I did get my first girlfriend going out on dates at 16.
This isn't the one that I met you with the first time.
Stephanie.
Hey,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Who I'm still somewhat in contact with to this day. So that's
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Does she still live here?
She is moved from New York to Georgia.
Okay.
Her husband retired from being a chiropractor, and they moved to Georgia.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. What was your most memorable date as a teenager? So since I didn't have one, you're going to have to float that story there, bud.
Probably the first date I went on with her was pretty memorable because I was so nervous. And
Where did you go?
we went to Cuco's?
I
was a
remember that.
Mexican
That was the big
restaurant.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we
Wow.
went to like Forsyth Park and
Yeah.
made out on the swings, and I just fell madly in love with her with my teenage heart.
Do you remember what you were wearing?
I do.
I thought you did. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah.
What are you wearing? Slick
Well,
Daddy?
no, I don't know if I do remember.
Them jeans that came out now.
No, I don't. I don't remember exactly what I was wearing, so I take that back.
Okay.
But I know it was Doc Martens for sure.
Doc Martens definitely in there.
But I can't recall exactly what I wore on my first date. Sorry. I thought I could, then I started remembering. I'm like, I have no idea. So sorry. I can't
That's
make
all right.
it too
That's
cheesy.
all right. That's all right. That's all right. All right. We got a few more minutes. I'm going to do a few midlife.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
Good.
Those were excellent, by the way.
I
really
wish our partner in crime, we would have gotten 3 questions in, and he would have took
Okay, I
20
tell you
minutes.
what. I tell you what. We'll bring him back and maybe we'll do some midlife.
Well, I think we've covered enough of his childhood.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, that's why I said now we can bring him back for
yeah,
midlife.
now we could do midlife with him. Maybe it won't. Maybe it's more of an even break.
I honestly would like to see him come back from midlife. So, Brandon, you're coming back. Just as soon as you pee. All right. So, the.
Man, that is tough.
All right. Ready? Midlife. Here we come. Did you attend any school or training after high school? Yes, I already said this. I went to college. Got
I
my
went to college
degree.
for a semester and figured out that I did not enjoy paying for school any more than when I did when it was free.
There you go.
And I had no intentions of doing that
School is for
as a
fools.
career.
There you go. Not a problem. Not a problem. How long did you date before you got engaged? Well, this is one for you, so we got to talk about.
I dated, well, the girl that I ended up being engaged to and married, we were together for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
As engaged before we got married, but we dated for maybe 2 years before we got engaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's nice. How'd you do it?
Well, this is an unfortunate story. So I did the I did the old school thing of calling her father,
That's fine. Yeah.
and her mother picked up the phone, and this is when you just had landlines, and said, "Hey, I need to talk to,"
Yeah.
and she put him on the phone, and he and I discussed my plans, and he was all
Satisfied.
for it. Yeah. And when her mother found out that news later on, when she saw her, she told her that I had called her dad and was going to propose to her. So it blew the whole thing.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
So when I
the
did
heck?
propose to her, she already knew.
She
it was
already
coming.
knew.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awful.
It is awful.
How did you feel about that? Was there a little pissed?
I was pretty pissed.
I would be too.
Pretty
I'd be
pissed.
very pissed.
Very
I mean, you should obviously know. I don't have to tell you, keep this quiet. I
Right.
don't have to tell you that. You should automatically know that. That's a bonehead move. Oh. What did you study in your one semester in college? I studied
Psychology.
history. Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Why'd you pick psychology?
Because I was like most people that I think go into psychology, they want to understand why they are the way they are.
Interesting. And now you have a PhD in life. Just graduated with one.
Yep, I went back.
It took you a while, but you got it.
It was
All
University
right.
of Phoenix.
All right. Did you ever have any influential professors or mentors in college? Well, I answered this one. I didn't know this was a midlife one. Mm-hmm. Did you, in that one semester?
No. The one thing that, this is pathetic, so I'll add to it. The one thing I remember learning in sociology was perception is real. I just remember that statement, and I thought,
I'm going to get a tattoo of that.
you're right. That's exactly what I thought. I'm going to cover up these stretch marks
With a tattoo.
with something profound.
Like a tiger. All right. Well, there you go. We're going to stop there. We may bring Mr. Moore back. I would like to for midlife.
Yeah, he's so much like, we're just like, this is like a tennis game.
Well, he has older
To reference
kids.
our stuff.
But this is great because
But
we're
bringing
all in
him
different.
in now, he just brings such a new sack of sorries in here.
It's Mo and Larry without our Curly. Is what it is.
Yeah.
Curly's the reason you come, and the three together are great.
Yeah.
But
Spread out.
Curly. That's right. All right, folks. If you have any answers to those questions, you can let us know in the comments below. We're not going to read them, but we'll see you next time.
I would like to know
Oh.
what you wore on your first date with your wife. Or the woman
You know what? Honestly, I don't know, but it was probably a red polo because I had a red polo I really liked. It was
Okay.
nice enough. I liked the color red. And it was probably that red polo, and knowing me, it was probably jeans too.
Okay.
And do you know where we went for our first date?
No.
Captain D's. Do you know why? I didn't think she was, she calls this a date. We were going to have lunch.
Okay.
I didn't know she had any interest. I was just going out to lunch with someone. So she didn't have a preference. And whenever you say that, then I'm going to look for the place that is closest to me, which was the Johnny's on McKean. Because I lived in those apartments right next to us. I said,
Yeah.
you like Johnny's Pizza? She went, I hate Johnny's Pizza. So I went, okay, what's the next down the road? Oh, Captain D's is at that stoplight. Just 20 feet later. I said, you like Captain D's? She's like, sure. So we went to Captain D's because it was close to me. I didn't want to go far.
Okay.
Yeah, not very romantic.
Okay.
We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.